Hello, welcome to the new video. We did some tasks on the cool house that we built up, and we're gonna give you some updates on the market garden concerning our harvest. Everything is lush and green. Also, Wolfie found a new excuse to start another woodworking building thing, and Nini prepared a new plot to plant. We also worked on and set up our new climbing aids for the tomatoes.
One thing that we hardly ever talk about as we show projects that we work on and stuff that we build is what we actually centrally do, and that is planting and cultivating vegetables. We take care of them every day, we water them, we weed them, we harvest them, and we also try to get rid of pesticides and insects that eat them, which is a lot that we do on our daily business. But it's a very pleasing thing, as this year a lot of things just work really well. Of course, there are always little things that don't fall into place as they should, but in general we're really pleased with how the garden looks this year and how the veggies are doing. And we will try in the future videos to show a little bit more about the current state, where we're at with particular plants and cultures, and also what we harvest and what we have done. Here you can see me harvesting our onions in one of the beds, which are really bad, have a really bad weed control, which was up to me, unfortunate. But I didn't find the time to weed them properly, which ended up in quite a bad harvest. And here's another bed, which looks also a little bit messy, but was way better weeded and had less onions in it. They were farther spaced, and that worked out pretty neat. So I think I got 3 times or nearly 4 times the amount of onions than from the other bed. And this is what it looks like after we harvested 2 beds of our onions. It's quite a substantial harvest, especially the one bed, the latest. Was quite nice to get that much out of. We also started harvesting our 3 kind of courgettes, which are really good this year, as well as our fennel and the kohlrabi.
In one of the last videos, you have seen us building up the cooling house, which was a pain in the ass, but now we're moving further. So Nini was filling the gaps that were left behind with acrylic, and I think it looks really beautiful. The acrylic is supposed to seal the room so that moisture couldn't get inside or outside of the cooling house. For connecting the cooling house with electricity, I had to drill a hole in the wall. Well, actually I drilled 2, but one was a fail. And then we were all happy. Here we are building the substructure for the cooling unit, as it is supposed to be mounted on the wall in front of the window, and the window is just too high. We used the leftover steel from the tomato aids, and Wolfie was cutting them into smaller pieces while I was welding them together. Not sure if it's about my welding abilities, but I think it was rather our bad welding electrodes that we had laying around. It didn't work super well, but at least it is holding on, and I don't know, it works. The process of the cooling house already takes a long time. That is because the market garden is our priority, and in between we have to do all those small tasks.
As already mentioned, I found a good excuse why I needed to work something with wood again. Although it being just a very small project, I enjoyed it a lot, as I haven't done too much with wood recently. We were in need for some pieces that hold distance between the wooden beams on which we dry our onions and garlics. In our experience from last year, if we don't keep the wood beams in line, they tend to roll and fall over, which then leads to all the onions on the floor and we have to restack them. After I put all the pencil marks where I needed them to start the cutting, I cut along those to make some grooves, so I set a certain depth with the depth gauge of my saw and did a lot of cuts. And now to the most satisfying part of this build or small project, to take out the little pieces in between the cuts, which is very satisfying, at least for me. And although it would be possible to do this with a router, I rather like this process way more. I don't think that the setup takes that much longer and the process is more satisfying. And after a short cleanup of those grooves, the work is done and I can hang the onions or put in those sticks where the onions will be put on then. And for now, as this is 2 weeks in the past, I'm pretty pleased how it turned out and it helps a lot. And here just underneath the onions you can see this part which holds in the lengthy sticks on which the onions rest. And as you see, we have quite a lot of them this year. Since we have been living on a farm, we have had this fence. It was originally thought for our dog Lena as her habitat where she can run freely. But usually she just lays around or prefers to stay in the house, especially in summer when it's hot. So we decided to repurpose the fence and put it somewhere else. We took it down and took all the posts out of the earth and gave it a new home, where it will host the leftover plants that we have this year. As we had planned quite well and had way too many leftover plants, which is wanted as we want to be able to replace dead plants or not so good growing plants, we decided to give them some dedicated space where they can try to grow as well. And Nidhi did a fantastic job of setting up the new fence in a new position and making a really nice pathway with the wood chips and using some leftover compost for making a nice small bed for them. As you may have noticed, this is not a 2-week but a 3-week update video. As we had too much to do last week, we didn't find the time to make a video as well. In this time, we also put up the new climbing aids for the tomatoes, which is the resemblance of the others. So it's basically 4 of those T's, and then they have the pipes on top welded where we can squeeze the rope through. I'm pretty pleased with the design change to use the bigger diameter pipe on top. It makes it way easier to get the steel rope through them. And I have to say, having a 2 pair of separate hands to do this job, to hang up the climbing aid for the tomatoes, was very pleasing and way faster. As the last time I did it myself and it took forever, running back and forth, untangling those, having 2 friendly people helping us made this process so much faster and easier. We also used the time to not just put up the climbing aid, but of course connect the tomatoes to them and cut out the water growth parts of the tomato, which we don't want, which is the little part above the leaf that just creates a new tomato, which is too much energy that then takes it away from the plant. And this is how it looks from the air. And I have to say I'm pretty pleased, especially now as this video is already 1.5 weeks old when I'm editing this. I know that the tomatoes are growing way bigger and stronger and look very nice. And that's already it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and special thanks for those people who helped us out in the last couple of weeks. We do very much appreciate it, having people around and helping us. Have a nice one.